Hello everyone and welcome to another What I Think review, and today we are going to be looking over this, the newly released and highly sought after, although we're going to come back to that in later on, Third Doctor and TARDIS set. So now I actually have, because I know, like, bearing in mind that I know that people are still looking for these, I was like, I actually have 3 of these, but there is a reason. I've got 1 to keep in the box, as I want to keep it in the box. And then I've got 2 more that are open, and the reason I've got 2 more of those is because I am going to turn them into some other classic customs. So there is a reason why I've got them, and I just want to point out as well, because I know this is a point of contention among many people, that some people are going to turn around, or some people have turned around to others, and I know they're probably going to say it to me and turn around and say, well, it's unfair that you've got that many when there are other people who haven't got them at all. Now, I've had to go out and at least one of these I have been sent, so I want to give a big shout out to Daniel Hambridge for getting me one of these. And then the other 2, I've just been lucky enough to get myself. I've had to go out and look for them and find them at the right prices. So the first one, I was lucky enough for somebody to do me a good favour. The others, I've gone out and got them myself. I'm not hoarding these to sell them on to anybody. I'm buying them simply for my own personal use. I've had to pay out money for them. So if people have a problem with me having so many, then please bear in mind that I'm not keeping these from anybody else. I've not stolen these from anybody. I've gone out and I've bought them. I want to make that absolutely clear now, because it does seem that these have generated a lot of controversy for many different reasons, which we are going to come back to in the course of this review. But the first things first is we're going to have a look at the actual box itself. So let's move these 2 out of the way for now. So the box is very nicely presented. It's a very nice looking box. It's actually, it's not that much bigger. It's a little bit bigger in terms of its width, but it's actually shorter than a lot of the classic TARDISes. So the classic TARDIS toys, which I do have. I don't have one of the other boxes to hand right now. But it's still a very nicely presented box. They've got a lot of nice detailing and everything on there. Obviously you've got all the detailing on the back, and you've got all the information. And the fact that you can see the figures on the inside, you can see it from both sides as well, is very nice. I think what they could have done, they could have brought the Third Doctor a little bit further forward, because when you sort of look at it, you look at the front of the TARDIS, and you can see the front of the TARDIS, and then you can see the side of it. But if they just brought the Doctor a little bit further forward, he wouldn't have looked so sort of squashed and shadowed at the back of the box. It's a bit of a shame that they've laid it out that way. But in the box, it looks fantastic. When we take it out of the box, however, well, let's get on to looking at the figures themselves, he says with an air of disappointment. So, onto the figures themselves, and I'm going to start off with reviewing the Third Doctor figure, because I know the TARDIS is what most people are going to want to see, but I have to say, after all of the clamouring and issues of people trying to get hold of these, as I said I was going to talk to you later on, obviously, you know, people were struggling to get these. People are buying them and selling them on at ridiculously high prices. And I'm going to be perfectly honest, once you get this out of the box, it looks fantastic in the box. You get it out of the box and there is one word to describe this. Disappointment. I'm sorry to have to say this, but I'm not even joking. This is, as a classic TARDIS, having a classic TARDIS re-released, it's great. If you want to use it for spares. If you wanted this as a classic TARDIS for your collection, then the character options have just really dropped the ball here. I'm sorry, but they really, really have, both on the figure and on the TARDIS. And obviously people were paying hundreds of pounds for these, and there was somebody who even paid £1,000. They paid £1,000 for one of these sets. If you're one of those people who've paid that much money, if you paid £1,000, or even if you paid more than £50 for this, I'm sorry, but you're an idiot. Because for that money, you could have gone and got one of the actual classic TARDIS sets, which is not only worth that much money, but it's also worth as an actual product, because these are just awful. The only use I can see for these TARDISes is for them to be used as to make customs. That's literally it. And the reason that they're so bad is the simple fact is there is no quality control over this. And we're going to start off with the Third Doctor figure. So overall, it looks like a very nice figure. Obviously, it's a little bit inaccurate that we didn't get the right collar, but it's just, it feels and it looks so flimsy. So for example, like, now I'm going to use just my little finger to show you all this, because I want to prove that I'm not hardly putting any force into this. So you can see how loose that leg is. Now if I stand him up, he's actually, as you can slightly see, he's having to lean forward slightly, because if I straighten out the legs, so the legs are now straight, and if we try to move the hips back, so I'm trying to just straighten the hips, you can see that he is leaning forward. So now if I straighten the hips out, there you go, I barely moved it. If I straighten, right, I promise I'm not making this up. If I try and straighten, if I hold the feet flat on the ground and then try to straighten the hips, it actually opens the knee joints. And the only way that I am able to get him to stand up straight is if the knees bend. And you can see that the knees are bent from that angle. It's just, it's so badly produced. And then also this arm here, look how loose that is. And as well, it's worth pointing out that I thought that, oh, maybe I've just got a dud figure here, but if we look at the one in the box, you can quite clearly see the gap in between his arm there. It's so huge. There's a massive gap. So it's not just this figure. And if I literally just, so again, just a tiny little bit of force with my little finger, it literally just pops off like that. And again, once I put it in, so again, I'm just going to do this close to camera. So you put it in, there you go, that is pushed all the way in, and look, there you go, look how loose that is. I mean, I can't quite, the thing is, we had this problem with the 375 range, we really did, and it sort of, I thought, well, okay, that's a 375 range, the quality control on that was bad. And I genuinely thought this wasn't going to be a problem again, and it's so horrible to see this. And it's not just the figure, either. Let's get on to the TARDIS itself. So, first of all, this Third Doctor figure is supposed to be from the Time Monster. Now, this TARDIS is a Fourth Doctor... So they've given us a Third Doctor figure with a Fourth Doctor TARDIS, because at no point during the Third Doctor's era did the TARDIS appear with this black base. It did appear with a black dome actually in the Time Monster, a black light in the Time Monster, but it did not appear with the base. And the model again is the Fourth Doctor model, so this TARDIS is completely wrong in terms of its accuracy. But again, now for me, I'm not bothered by that. That really doesn't bother me, because it's a classic TARDIS and I can do whatever I want with this. I can change and chop and change it into things. But it's the fact that they've given this set to people saying, oh, it's from the Time Monster, and it just it really isn't, because they've just really not put any real effort into this. Now, the other thing I want to show you as well, and I've got here, now this is the original Fourth Doctor TARDIS. This is the original release version. So you can see that they are the same overall TARDIS. They are literally, with the exceptions of maybe some little small details, they are absolutely identical. And I've got here, and this to me, this really does just prove how cheaply they have made this one. So let's open them both. Oh, let's open them both up. I might have to hold the doors open for that one because it is a little bit stiff. Right, so there we go. Both of the doors open. Now you can see that there is no extra interior card or anything in these. I have here a torch. So shining the torch through the back of the Fourth Doctor TARDIS, you can see that the windows light up. So let's move it down. So that is now shining against the back of the plastic. And there's nothing, you can't see anything. Moving it over to this one, shining it through the light. Look at that. Look at how thin. So again, bear in mind, right, the torch is not turned off, so you can see the torch is on. So, torch is on through the back of the new TARDIS. Torch is on. You can't see it through the back of the old one. And it just so, this is made out of such thin plastic. It just is absolutely awful that it's been made to that. They've made it that cheaply, and you can feel it as well. You can feel, I mean, I know it hasn't got any electronics in it, but the thing is, I've actually got this one has electronics in it. I don't have a set of scales with me, unfortunately, but one of my TARDISes upstairs, for example, I've got one of my let's say my Fifth Doctor TARDIS custom that I made. Now when I made that, that was made with taking the electronics out, and then I put it all back together, and obviously it does weigh a little bit more because obviously it's got a little bit of extra plastic in it. But this, you can just feel it when you hold it, how much more the classic TARDIS ways because it's made out of a better plastic. It really is just absolutely shocking how much they have managed to get away with not doing this. And lastly, let's talk about the weathering on it. And I'm going to show you something now, which again I think just proves how bad their quality control is, because some people have got these and they have entire panels that haven't been weathered at all. So nobody's actually checked it. So there's no, either there is quality control and they don't care, or people genuinely haven't checked it, because I've seen ones where people have got, like, everything else is weathered and then these whole panels here are just pristine blue, like they've never been weathered. Now I have here just an ordinary piece of kitchen roll, and I apologise that I'm going to have to make this noise on camera, but I'm just going to use some, in fact, you know what, actually, I'm not going to use some ordinary saliva. If you will give me a moment, I will get myself a small amount of water just to prove that I'm not using any chemical agents, that I'm just using plain ordinary water to do this. Right, I apologise for not cutting there either, but I didn't want it to sound like, you know, I've gone off camera and got something. So we have here, right, here is an ordinary small amount of water, and I will just, again, just to prove that it's water. There you go, that's water. I've just taken a sip of it. So, bit of kitchen roll dipped in the water. So there's the damp kitchen roll. So let's pick, let's go here. So bearing in mind, again, this is just ordinary water, nothing special in this. Look at that. You can, okay, I don't know how well that comes up on camera, but you can quite clearly see, if I really scrub it, you can see where it's clean, you can see where it's taking off the weathering. You can see it, it's just coming off. And people have said, when they've got these in their hands, they feel very tacky. And now I've got one in my hand, it does. The weathering on this just doesn't feel like it's even dried properly. I don't know what it is, but just with a bit of, this is cold water, this isn't even hot water, plain cold tap water, the weathering on this just starts coming off. And it is just absolutely appalling. It really is. And I know people are probably watching these reviews and thinking, oh, these figures are, you know, we've finally got a classic TARDIS, it's great, oh, doesn't it look brilliant? I'm sorry, right, if you think it's brilliant, then great, I'm happy for you. If you're happy with it, then absolutely fine. But as somebody who's got the classic TARDIS versions, and I'm looking at the classic versions compared to this one, this new version is absolutely awful. It is absolutely dreadful. I'm sorry, but there is no quality control here. It is absolutely terrible. It looks terrible. It looks horrible. And I just honestly think that character options have really dropped the ball here, because they've done so much wrong with this that I think it is inexcusable. And I know they've got to do things to a budget. That's fine. But it's the way that they've cut the corners, and the fact that there is so little quality control on this. It really has just it really grinds my gears that they're giving this, and it also the fact as well that people are buying these up, because I mean this is the fault of character options and B&M. There hasn't been any customer limit on these, so people are buying them up and selling them on for ridiculous amounts of money. I'm going to be perfectly honest, right? These are £20 in the shops. This really isn't worth £20. I'm sorry, but it's really, really not. 15, yes. 20 at a push. Like I said, I mean, because these are difficult to get hold of, people are willing to pay sort of 30 quid, and that's fair enough. I mean, it's not worth £30, but if that's the price it takes to get one, then fair enough. It's the fact that you've got a classic TARDIS, and that is a nice thing to have. But there's no way it's worth the exorbitant amounts that people are trying to sell them for, even now. It is just absolutely awful as a set. And so for that reason, and as a sort of message to character options, I would like to do something now. So here is what we... Let's put it center camera. Sorry, I'm getting so annoyed, I'm getting distracting myself. So here is what we got. And here is what we should have gotten in this set. So I'm not going to go over the TARDIS in detail, but for those wondering, those who haven't seen it, this is actually my custom Third Doctor TARDIS. There is a link to the video in the description. Now, underneath, this is a First Doctor TARDIS. Alternatively, you could have done it with a seventh Doctor TARDIS as well. But once you remove the little bits, like the roof is a separate piece, once you remove the different roof size, underneath all the classic TARDISes are actually the same mould, more or less. There's a few small little details, but generally it is the same mould. So, bearing in mind there are no electronics in the new version, what character options could have done is they could have cast a new roof piece with a new lamp, and then put the new roof on, and then you would have had a more accurate looking roof. And then the only other thing I've done on this is I've filled in the sign with Milliput, and then put a pull to open police telephone box sign over the top of it to give it a full panel. Again, this panel is a separate piece from the door, so again they could have just cast a new full panel piece and put that in. Now this version, my version, I've done as if it was from the Time Monster, and I appreciate that it's not completely accurate. There's small things like the lamp and some of the signs aren't completely the right colours and shades and things like that, but at the end of the day it's still a Third Doctor TARDIS compared to the one we got in the set, which is absolutely, there's no way you can call what we got in the set a Third Doctor TARDIS. It is a Fourth Doctor TARDIS. So if character options had just made a new roof, made a new sign, and given it an overall paint colour, and they could have even painted the lamp blue. They've done it on that one, so I don't see why they couldn't have done it on a better one. If they'd done that, then we would have actually had a Third Doctor TARDIS that looks like this. So simple. So that's just effectively 3 pieces of sculpting. And then when we get onto the figure itself, now, because at the moment I've actually only got one of these figures out of a box, what you're seeing this figure here is the same as the figure over there, because what you're seeing over this, I'm pointing over this side, what you're seeing over this side is a freeze frame. So this is exactly the same figure as what you're seeing on the right hand side of the screen. And all I've done for this, literally all I've done, is I have I've replaced the standard shirt piece with a bow-tied version, but then I've cut off the bow tie and shaped the top of the shirt frills to go into the collar. Now, in doing that, it does mean that the figure is still slightly inaccurate, because in the Time Monster he has his collar open, and I may go back and do that in future, but actually looking at the Time Monster, because obviously in the promo pictures for the Third Doctor set, we saw that he had the frilled shirt front from the regenerated Fourth Doctor figure. Now, the regenerated Fourth Doctor figure, the shirt front piece on that, is actually an entirely new sculpt that includes the collar. It's as a Third Doctor figure, it's a completely different sculpt from the standard Third Doctor. So I can kind of understand from that perspective why they didn't use that figure, and it was easier to use this figure. However, what I don't understand is why they, first of all, why they couldn't have painted the shirt the right colour, because it's not white in the Time Monster, it's a greyish blue. And secondly, why they couldn't have given us a more accurate shirt front piece. And my argument for this is we look at the other B&M sets that were released at exactly the same time, more specifically the Fourth Doctor set, which included a Fourth Doctor, but it was a Third Doctor body, and in order to give him a tie, they had sculpted a brand new shirt front piece, which proves that they can do it, that they were willing to do that they were willing to make small changes like that. So, why did they not sculpt a new shirt front piece for the Third Doctor here, in order just to give him the right sort of frilled bit of the collar, so he hasn't got a tie, or he hasn't got a little cravat thing? And again, I have to look at it and think, why wasn't that done? So effectively, to make this set look more accurate to the Time Monster, new lamp sculpt, new roof sculpt, new door frame sculpt, new shirt front sculpt. That's it. That's literally all they would have had to have done, just to make the small changes on this, to put this together and make it look like this. Because ultimately, what we got in that set, I mean, it says on the box Third Doctor and TARDIS, and it's sort of been advertised as having, given the fact that we're supposedly having a Third Doctor as he was seen in the Time Monster, where you'd think, okay, well, a Third Doctor, Time Monster, TARDIS. We didn't. We got a Third Doctor from... I'm inclined to say, actually, we got the Third Doctor from the mutants, but without the red painted tie. Which, for people wondering, actually, that's a good. If you want, if you can't do this or you don't want to do this, just repaint the this tie piece red on this figure, on the official figure, and you've got a mutants variant. Obviously, you can add a cloak, or you can change the boots as well. Obviously, I've made my own mutants custom version, but very simple thing to do. So what we got in that set, as far as I can see, as I said, was a an unfinished, because the tie's not painted, an unfinished Third Doctor from the mutants, and a Fourth Doctor TARDIS. That's what we actually got in that set. Let's be perfectly honest. When you look at the colour schemes and what there was in that set, that's what we got. To get a Third Doctor TARDIS and a Third Doctor from the Time Monster, that's this. And this TARDIS as well, with the exception of the lamp being painted black, as I said, and a few small sign differences, I actually based this TARDIS model off the Time Monster. So what I've made here, with just a few small changes, I've made a Third Doctor and Time Monster set that is more accurate than the official version that we got. And I'm going to be perfectly honest, if I saw... Now, in exactly the same box, if I saw this on the shelf, and I saw the official version on the shelf, and I look at it and I think, which one would I rather buy? I'd go for this one. Not because I'm not, you know, well, actually, let's be fair, I'd probably pick up both of them, because obviously I'd see the you know, the official version that we got, and I think, oh, spare TARDIS, I can do something with that. But if I was looking for a set that had the Third Doctor with his TARDIS from effectively the Time Monster, let's take the Time Monster, forget it's from the Time Monster. Let's see, if I wanted just a set that it was the Third Doctor and his TARDIS, then I'd buy this version, because that's what that is. I don't want a Third Doctor with a Fourth Doctor TARDIS. But I appreciate, and I'm going to be fair here, I appreciate that obviously I'm biased, having made this. Obviously, of course, I'm going to think, you know, being perfectly honest, my version is more accurate to a Third Doctor with his TARDIS than the official release version. So I'm saying that not from... I'm stating that as a fact, alright? That is just a fact. But obviously I'm going to think that my version looks better than the official version, because I think it does. I'm not trying to sound big-headed, I genuinely think it does. But in the interest of fairness, I want people to comment down below, which would you rather... If you saw them both in store, which would you buy? Would you buy this version, or would you buy the official version? I genuinely want to know what people would buy. Now, I take no offence if people turn around and say they'd rather buy the official version. I'm not suggesting that they see this in store and they say, oh, CaptainJimiPie, you know, he's retailed his customs. I mean, if this was an official version, if they released two official versions, put it that way, if this was an official version and that one was an official version, which one would you buy in store? Because I genuinely think that when... I said, if it was me, I would definitely buy this version, and I think it's probably going to... I get the feeling that it's going to be the same case, and I'm not saying that as in like, oh yeah, look, my version's better. I'm saying this is the fact that look at what CO are making, and then look at what the fans are making. Because, let's be honest, and not just this version, I've looked at... Other people have bought the official TARDISes, and they've turned them into other TARDISes themselves. When you actually look at what the fans are making, the fans are actually outclassing the official merchandisers. So, I mean, what does that tell you? Really, what does that tell you? So, I don't really know what else to say. I mean, I don't... I'm sorry that this is such a negative review, but at the end of the day, I'm not paid to review these. I go and buy, I buy these and get them, or get them some means, and they're not, they're not given to me by the official merchandiser. They're not given to me by Character Options or B&M and say, hey, can you review this to, let us know what you think. I want to make it absolutely clear, I have no problems with people who aren't given advanced merchandising to review it. I know there are several other YouTubers out there who do Doctor Who reviews, and they're lucky enough to get them on their hands immediately, and that's fine. I have no problem with that at all. But for me, I'm not being paid to review this, so I'm going to critique it and I'm going to review it as I see it. And at the end of the day, as much as it's nice to have a classic TARDIS re-released, this set is just a disappointment. It really is, and so I think that if you're having to, you know, if you're still trying to get hold of one of these, really don't cave in to the ridiculous prices on eBay, because they're really not worth it. I'm almost inclined to say to people, show the people on eBay selling them for ridiculous amounts of this review, and then question them saying, why would I pay for that in the box, you know, when this is what's actually in there. If people are charging, say, let's say obviously on eBay you do have to make a bit of a profit. You know, as somebody who's sold on eBay, I appreciate that. So if you can pick one up on eBay if you can pick one up in B&M for 20 quid, then great. If you can pick one up on eBay for £30, then fine. You know, if as a set for spares, that's actually not too bad, especially as a brand new set for spares. It's not bad at all. But anyone on eBay charging more than £30 for these, I'm sorry, but I think that is just profiteering, and it's a shame that people are doing that, because ultimately what is in these sets is really not worth the price. But yes, I suppose that should bring to a close my review of the Third Doctor and TARDIS. Again, I'm sorry that this is something of a negative review. I'm sure many people were hoping that this would be a positive review, showing the plus sides of this set. But as I said, it's nice to have a classic TARDIS set given to us again. But at the end of the day, I really am struggling to find positives about the set we've got when the fans can make things that are much better. As always, I hope you all enjoyed this video. Like, subscribe, share, it really helps me a lot. Be sure to check out the description below for a link to my Patreon. I'm doing my very first figure animation, and you can get involved. There is exclusive content and rewards for those who do so, and funding my Patreon in any way gets your name at the end of my videos. I salute you all, and I will see you with another video very soon.